Welcome back to Briggs on Books, our international talk show where we talk to authors from all over the world. And by the way, it's not just authors, it's editors, publishers, paginators. If you're an aspiring author and you don't know what a paginator is, you're going to learn pretty soon. So many of our viewers have not got their book published. They haven't finished writing it, but we're going to bring people on the show who have finished. Also, for our reader viewers, we're going to help you pick the next book you read. And by the way, for our author viewers who haven't finished a book, our next guest has done it multiple times. Welcome, Peter Lancellotti, who is not only an author, he's a gerontologist. Welcome, Peter.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Tell our viewers where you are.
I am in my library in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, California, I presume. So
Yes,
you're the same
yeah.
time zone as me. That's good.
Yes.
And I'm just going to give a teaser here. Peter, who's been, by the way, he's one of my favorite guests. I don't mind saying that to our viewers. One of my favorite guests. I tell them that all the time. But look at this. We're the first talk show, I think, to expose this brand new book that just came out last night at midnight. Yeah, this morning at 12:01 maybe. The Immortal Managerie, Ethos of Legends.
Part 2 of a sci-fi trilogy.
Yeah. And by the way, here's part 1. Of the book. But I want to do just a little bit of backtracking here. I have a photo of you at a conference or presentation. Is it at USC?
Yes, when I was in scientific research, I think that's where we left off last time we spoke. I was working in the cognitive language and memory lab. I started with a study on Alzheimer's, and then the department transitioned into the digital aging sector, where we were developing apps for older adults and home care agencies. And as you know, I eventually, at the same time, had my own home care agency. And that conference was an annual event that USC has in the Davis School of Gerontology called What's Hot in Aging Research at USC.
Wow.
And that year, I was lecturing on the development of websites for older adults, because there are many websites online right now where they have these little tiny 8-point fonts that I can't even read anymore. And I was discussing using high contrast colors so that the internet is friendly for older adults, because we don't, some of us, we can't read 8-point fonts.
That's right.
And I suggest using anything from mostly 14 and above, but most people use 12 because that's typical for print in a book. Although Kindle, you can expand your fonts as big as you like. But when you publish a book,
I was going to ask you about that. In Kindle, you can make different contrasts, different background colors.
right. But I've noticed most older adults, they don't want to read Kindle. I like to hold a book.
Well, I am an older adult now, 65, and I'm having trouble seeing the books now. So I'm thinking of trying the Kindle. So, and especially if I can adjust the contrast and the size and things like that. So, are they making? Not to put you on the spot, but I see all these drugs on the commercials that you could get to maybe help you with your memory.
Well, there are 4 drugs in particular that were developed for dementia, not necessarily Alzheimer's. And in the study I was in, it was a longitudinal study on Alzheimer's, on cognitive decline in aging. And when I started in research, I was actually the person, because of my sales and marketing background, they hired me at first to do informed consents to bring back people who have been in this study for 40 years. And I was not proficient at doing this. And I got fooled quite a few times where I would set an appointment, and sometimes I would have to drive from downtown LA to Laguna.
Yeah.
And when I got to a person's door, they wouldn't let me in because they didn't remember talking to me last night.
Oh, boy.
I had to get additional training from my supervisor, Dr. Elizabeth Zielinski. She was amazing. She's retired now. And she said, Peter, you have to cross-reference questions when you're on the phone with these people. You can't just talk with them for 10 minutes, because you can talk with someone with dementia for 10 minutes and they sound perfectly lucid, perfectly fine. But then if you don't if they don't remember you the next day, they're not going to let you in. And that happened to me a few times. So you have to keep them on for 40 minutes to an hour, and you have to have a list of questions where you come back to that question
Yeah.
later in the conversation to see if they remembered. We had to, in this study, because it was on normal cognitive decline in older adults as opposed to those with possible
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, part of the study was, do we have instrumentation today, fMRIs, CT scans, that can diagnose it? No, we do not. We can only rule out
Mm.
the possibility of other dementia-related illnesses like Parkinson's, Huntington's, multiple sclerosis. There's a variety of disorders that can present with dementia,
Yeah.
not just Alzheimer's. Usually when
Interesting.
you say dementia, they think Alzheimer's,
Right.
and that's
Right.
not the
It's not the case. Yeah.
but I had to learn that. And then eventually I started to learn more and more. I was doing PhD work with Dr. Zelinsky and learning how to do cognitive testing. There were, learning how to enter data into the SSPS software so that we could do statistical analyses, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Nothing I ever expected on getting into.
Yeah. I did that in college, and it was fascinating what you could do with statistical analysis. Now, we're going to get to this book right here, Peter Lancellotti's brand new book. The second, is it a two-part, or is there going to be a book 3?
There is a book 3, and I am in the process of writing it. And never again will I promise you a date like I did the last time. I said February, we're in May.
But before we go to the new book, I want to just touch for a second on is this your first book, Alive After Dying?
Yes, that's a memoir. That's a true story.
It's a memoir.
The reason it's called Alive After Dying is when a loved one dies, part of us dies with them, and it leaves us feeling alive after dying.
Mm-hmm.
It was about the loss of my spouse of 26 years, and it deals with grief. It deals with, as you can see by the subtitle, on being gay and spiritually challenged, the evolution of my discovery of my sexual orientation and how I eventually did find, fortunately, the love of my life, and my escape from the Catholic Church. And I want to plug in somebody else's book, Deborah Maria Flint. I'm almost done reading No Place for a Woman. Wow. We have a lot in common, and we're following each other on LinkedIn. She's interesting, and I'm going to write a review on her book. I love it. She wants to actually make changes in the Catholic Church. I'm terrified of the Catholic Church. She's not.
Now, in this book, Alive After Dying, I know a lot of men who have lost their spouse of many years. Do you think this book would be helpful to them?
Yes, and I will tell you something very strange. Most authors, when they write a book, I know everyone thinks that this book is for everybody. Well, I went into it thinking this book was for the LGBTQ demographic.
Mm-hmm.
They were not crazy about it. The straight population loved it because I destigmatized the whole LGBTQ. We have the same feelings as everybody else.
Right.
And I used to be amused when people say, oh, I accept your lifestyle. And being the smart aleck that I am, I'd say, oh, when did you decide that the heterosexual was going to be your lifestyle?
Yeah.
Yachting is a lifestyle. Sports are a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Fishing, traveling, those are lifestyles.
Yeah.
Sexual orientation, you can only blame it on one of two things, God or genetics.
Right. There you go. Now, I want to get to the important thing is a book released today, and let's introduce that book by first putting book 1 up. Here's book 1, The Immortal Menagerie, The Secret Scrolls. Now, this is a novel, right?
Her Immortal Managerie is a trilogy. I switched the categories in Amazon based on that program I told you about in our earlier interview, Publisher Rocket.
Yeah.
It not only helps you with keywords, but it also helps you put your book in the correct category. I had it in hard science fiction. Mm-hmm. Hard science fiction is more like The Expanse or Star Wars. That's hard science fiction. Mine, from what I understand after you put keywords in, the category is particularly based on some of the reviews I received, metaphysical science fiction, space opera science fiction, and humor science fiction. As you can tell, me, the spiritual comedian, I do write with a lot of humor, and a lot of the reviewers from my first book have said, if you enjoy social commentary with a lot of touch or a touch of satire and dry humor, you're going to like this book. But another reviewer who I loved that review said that, but they also said that which is my intention, to delve into a deep study of immortality based on my studies in gerontology.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about longevity a lot in gerontology and extending our lives. There's still no actual data that shows us how to extend our lives. However, there is some anomaly, if you want to call it. As we move into the future, we are living longer.
Right.
I mean, I would say personally, I know approximately 50 centenarians
Yeah.
who have reached 100 and older.
Right.
And, that was unheard of. If you think about, say the 17th century, that was unheard of to, live to be 100. And now we are. It's just a development of human nature.
Right. So her Immortal Menagerie, tell us just a speck about that and how it leads into your new book.
Her Immortal Menagerie is, just as the title suggests, I won't tell you who she is because you don't get that revealed until the third book, but I drop a lot of hints about who she is, and I'll just give you one clue. It's not a person.
Okay.
I'll give you another clue. On the back of the first book, it says, stars and planets talk to each other. Think about that.
Yeah.
I present that as human beings, we aspire to be gods and goddesses. Well, yes and no, we do. But is that the end? That when, we unite with the cosmic origin known as God? Maybe. But is there anything higher? Possibly.
Yeah.
We have solar systems. We have galaxies with billions of solar systems within it. We have billions of galaxies out there, and the universe is infinite. And when we look out into space, we see more darkness than we see light. Does that mean evil is winning? Not exactly. Maybe because our physical eye can't see the infrared or the ultraviolet spectrum. That doesn't mean that that's all there is.
Right.
So my book goes into, if you look at the Secret Scrolls, which is the name of the book, first one, you can go online and look at the free material in the Kindle version, and the first thing you see are 4 pages of charts. No, you do not have to know what they all mean. A couple of readers wrote to me and they go, I don't think I want to read your book. Do I need to know this?
Too much homework.
You don't. No, you don't, because those charts are in all 3 books. Because if I explained all those charts to you in the first book, you'd be reading a textbook. And I don't want you to read a textbook. I want you to be entertained. And insofar as it is entertaining, I will say something else about the entire series, Her Immortal Menagerie. It is a fiction story, but I mix fact with fiction. There are real events that happen. Like, I'll give you an example. Because the book empowers the feminine polarity, I'm very into, I think we talked about this, I'm quite the feminist, and I would like to see a balance between masculine and feminine energy in our world. I mean, come on, women are still getting paid less than men. We're in 2024. That should not be happening.
That's right.
That's not what I talk about. And I stay far away from religion and politics. But I do mention in 1984, when Walter Mondale and his running mate, Geraldine Ferrara, ran, they didn't win, but I make these little social commentary points along the way of things that did really happen. Because the first book is 1982 and 1983.
Huh.
The second book, if you saw the back of it, I don't know if you can't see the back of it yet. Oh, it's in the description. We catapult 8 years later. It starts in 1991, and book 2 takes us all the way to 2024.
All right.
So book three
By the way, here's
is
the second book. We got to wrap up here, Peter. Should we read these in order? Is that important?
absolutely, definitely. Well, you don't have to read Alive After Dying before you read the other two,
Right.
but I mean, Alive After Dying stands alone. Her Immortal Menagerie is a science fiction space opera,
Uh-huh.
and I have already had some beta readers tell me that it was book two was even more fun than the first book,
That's
which
good.
makes me pleased to hear.
I'm going to do a little wrap up here. Go to Amazon or wherever you like to buy your books. Order book one, order book two, but don't just order one copy. Order a few copies, give them away to your friends. Let's all read together. Let's all read Peter Lancellotti together. Peter, we're out of time. Last thoughts for our viewers about anything you want to say.
There's some new material on my website, and I'm going to be coming out with a new section in the blog called Alive After Blogging, which are all the deleted scenes, because I told you about that book was 800 pages long and it was an autobiography,
Yeah.
but it didn't have anything to do with the two subcategories.
That's good.
The Alive After Blogging, which my web manager came up with jokingly. I liked it though. I thought it was a great title. So it'll be deleted scenes, and I'm going to be doing audible short stories because a lot of people want to hear it, and they think I have a good voice and they want me to do it myself.
If you ever have audiobooks, you got to use your own voice. That's the main thing. Anyway, for our viewers, look on the screen, peterlancellotti.com, Instagram, Peter Lancellotti. Brilliant coming up with those web addresses and Instagram addresses, Peter. And thank you so much. I can't wait to have you back again.
Thank you, Mike. It's been fun.
And we'll talk to you next time, Peter. My most fun guest of all time, Peter Lancellotti. We'll be back with more.
You make it sound like your other guests have to top me, and they're all going to hate me.
Good luck topping Peter Lancellotti. We'll be back right after this.
No, don't say that.